Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to grecochess, the YouTube channel dedicated to the game of chess. I'm your host, Harry Lasaniziris, and we have a development in the grecochess online tournament that takes place in chess.com. If you've seen the previous videos, you may know that in two out of the four qualifying groups, in fact, there are 16 players divided into four groups of four, and the first one of every group makes the final round. So two out of the four groups have already been completed. And in the other two, in one of them, I was one of the two main contestants, and everything was going to be decided on the two games I would play against deleigne from Hungary. So one of the two games has been completed, and now we're going to see what happened at that one game. But let me share first my screen with you. Here is the game. Since this game exists in a link of chess.com, instead of passing the moves one by one, copying from the score sheet, I'm going to replay them from that page, but in order to avoid spoiler, in order to avoid telling you in advance the result, you're only going to see a portion of the screen. And we are going to see the moves as it develop one by one from the beginning until the end. And also we are going to see here on the left part, what is the computer evaluation. If you see a number at the bottom left, it means that white is doing better. At the top left, it means that black is doing better. And the green arrow will indicate which was supposed to be the best move. I had the white pieces in that game, and deleigne forget the black pieces. And of course, there is one more remaining game where deleigne has the white and I have the black. But let's see this game that just completed. And I start with e4. And I'm going to read the comments. Nice, I recommend this first move for players of all levels, says the coach. E5, striking back in the center with their own pawn. And you see this book move. So long as you see this book, we have a book move. I'm going to read the comments of the online coach. Next move, knight to f3, adding control of the center with your knight. And knight to c6. I encourage players of all levels to respond with their knight this way, says the coach. Next move, pawn to d4, the so-called Scotch opening, and the coach says doubling your attack on the pawn and opening up your dark squared bishop. Yep, the bishop on c1 is not constrained by the d2 pawn any longer. And black takes a pawn. Capturing opens up the center and provokes your knight to recapture. But I'm not going to recapture the knight. I'm going to play the Scotch Gambit, as it's called. With precise play, you will win a pawn, says the coach, even though you see that black has a small advantage of 0.1. And bishop to c5 plays black. bc5 develops the bishop towards the center and defends the d4 pawn. So black is a pawn ahead. This is a gambit. But I'm not worried about that. I knew that this was going to happen. My knight goes to g5. This is, and knight to g5 is the last book move. This is a book move, meaning it follows established opening theory played by top players for years. That is what the coach is saying. And pawn to d5 for black, for deleigne. This is a mistake, says the coach. They missed a better way to add a defender to the vulnerable pawn. And yes, usually one puts the knight go to h6, so the f7 pawn is protected. At that point, I saw my opponent had left the theory, but I didn't know how to react. I had two ways to take the pawn on d5, either with the bishop or with the pawn. I decided to the pawn to attack the knight, but the computer thinks it is a miss. You had a better way to capture free pawn, meaning with the bishop, and now you see that black's advantage goes to 0.3. We're already in move 6, but let's see after move 5. After move 5, I had a small advantage of 1.0. but after that, I'm down 0.3. And knight goes to e5. A good move, says the computer. They move the knight to safety. And now the game is even, as you see. Check from b5. This moves your bishop to a safer square because the knight was both attacking the bishop and also controlling the f7 square. So I decided, let's check now. But computer doesn't like it, although it says a good move. You see I'm down by 0.5. Bishop to d7, they block the check from your bishop. Exchange bishops, which will increase the advantage of black of my opponent deleigne to 0.6. Kingside castling. Castling protects your king and activates your rook. See, and pawn goes to h6. They kick your knight with a pawn, forcing it to move or be captured. But their advantage becomes smaller, 0.3. I send my knight back to h3. Why to h3 and not anywhere else? I don't want f3 to block my queen. e4, I was afraid it was too near the center, but it would attack at least the bishop on c5. And look what the code says. Ouch! You left your pawn hanging. At this point, my opponent's advantage, the lines is 1.3. But instead of taking the pawn, they missed a chance to capture a free pawn. They thought that they could both develop the knight, and since attacking the pawn by two pieces, the queen d7, the knight on f6, they are going to capture it. Computer doesn't like it, reduces their advantage to 0.3. My rook goes to e5. That's a useful pin you found, of course, for a pin. If I could play again, pawn goes to f4 and the knight is pinned and is lost. How can you protect it? If knight goes to g4, I can take my queen and it's not so simple. The queen of d7 can take the knight, cannot take it. Let's see how it could be saved. If the queen goes off, the bishop could go or the queen, but no matter what, the two pawn goes to f4 and the knight on e5 is lost. And blunder, queen takes the pawn on d5. This move gives you opportunity to win their knight. Computer would rather have the knight go to g4, as I mentioned, because yes, my pawn would go to f4 to attack the knight, but then my opponent would have a check by pushing the pawn to d3. Computer now gives me an important, significant advantage of 3.7. That's quite a large advantage, assuming, of course, I can keep it. But let's see what happened. My knight from h3 goes to f4 and attacks the queen. This will win a knight with correct play. Queen goes now to c6 instead of d6. Remove the queen to safety. Excellent, but not the best. And what's going to happen is now I can win the knight. Rook goes to e5, check, and I win a knight, and I'm ahead materially +2, as you see here. And the computer gives me advantage of 3.8. Bishop goes to e7. Queen goes to e2. Coach says, nice, you found a way to win a bishop. At this point, queen and rook attack them. Bishop on e7. They attack twice, defended only once by the king. Of course, black has more than one ways to defend it. Queen can go to d6, d7, or perhaps knight can go to g8. Let's see what black is going to do. Yes, queen goes to d6. Your opponent reinforces the defense of their bishop, but my advantage increases to 4.5. Knight goes to a3, time to develop the knight. Good thinking to bring out more pieces into the game, says the coach. Pawn goes to a6. They played one of the best moves here. Knight goes to c4 and attacks the queen. You win time by threatening a queen. Now, what can black do? Because they need to protect the bishop at e7, they need to bring the queen to safety. I think the only move is queen goes to d7. And that's what they do. This move puts the queen on a safe square. Or they could even send it to d8. That's what the computer would prefer. Let's see what's going to happen now. Pawn to h3. In case there is a back rank issue, h3 is excellent, says the coach, to create space for the king to move in case it is attacked. Kingside castling for black. Computer says it is excellent. Your opponent is losing a bishop, but you're already in a winning position anyways. You're going to see that the bishop on e7 is attacked twice by queen on e2 and the rook on e5, and defended only once by the queen on d7. This is why, as if the +2 material advantage ahead was not enough, I'm going now to win the bishop. Of course, queen is not going to recapture by the rook because it would be lost to the queen on e2. So my material advantage is +5 now, and computer gives me +5.2 advantage. Bishop to d2. With the bishop developed, you're building a more robust position, see the coach. Of course, the knight on c4 is protected by the queen on e2, and the black queen cannot just grab it. Rook goes to e8. Your opponent's rook challenges your control of the open file. Yes, but when you're ahead in material, you love exchanging because you are near a winning ending. My knight is going to go to a5 and threaten the black queen on c6. Excellent. In the computer, this is a fine move. And we exchange the rooks on e7, and the attack on the queen on c6 is still going on. We just passed the 20 moves. Let's see, after exactly 20 moves, before I recapture the rook, my advantage is 4.8. It's quite important, and stays so. No, it falls a little bit down to 4.5. Computer would rather have me take the queen directly. And if I lose my queen, I can take the rook with my knight, something like that. Queen goes to c2. This makes a passed pawn. Yes, in theory, the pawn on d4 is a passed pawn, meaning there are no pawns in the c, d, or e files from white to stop it. But doesn't seem to really make any difference. I still have an advantage of +4.5, as you see here. My queen goes to b4 to protect the bishop. He allowed the opponent to win a bishop by kicking a key defender. So my advantage goes almost to half, only 2.5. That's why I said, no matter what the computer says particular moment, anything can happen until the end. Let's see how the game will continue. Queen goes to e4. They missed a chance to win a bishop by attacking a key defender. What computer wanted to do is pawn goes to c5, and then while defending the queen in any way, while keeping the queen safe, I was going to lose the bishop on d2 because there was no way the queen could go in a square protecting the bishop. That's why my advantage goes back up to 5.2. My rook goes to e1 to attack the queen. Computer says that is the best. It's a good strategy to develop your piece and win a tempo on the queen. Queen goes to f5. This move puts the queen on a safer square. This just explain the style that you see here means that a player played the best possible choice out of the choices they had. While the thumbs up here means that they played an excellent move, not the best necessarily. The best is indicated by the arrow, but still an almost good as the best. I win a pawn, it's excellent. You captured a free pawn. Rook goes to b8. You see the star, it's the best move for black, and pins my knight. The opponent pinned your knight, limiting its movement. Of course, if the knight moves, I lose my queen. If it stays there, if it's attacked a second time, then the knight is lost. For example, if a black knight could make it to c6, for example. But I continue my attack, rook to e7. Putting your rook on the 7th rank is a great strategy. So queen defends both knight and rook. Now the problem with this way of playing is that I'm reaching something called multitasking. The overloading. The chess term is overloading, meaning the queen has two assignments to do, both protect the knight on b7 and the rook on e7. And sometimes tactics can emerge that the other player may force the queen to select one of the two tasks of the overloading, and you lose the other piece. Let's see if this is going to happen. Pawn goes to a5. Sort of. You see here that the queen cannot safeguard knight and rook at the same time. But since the rook is not attacked, the queen can afford to leave the rook unprotected and continue guarding the knight. A5 computers, the coach says decent move, but they had the better one. When I say coach, I mean, of course, the online coach. It's artificial intelligence coach of chess.com. It's not a human being. And these comments, I believe, they are automatically generated. The computer would prefer if the knight went to uh, d5, because then it would have a double attack on queen and rook. Then I would take it with my knight. The queen would take it, and who knows. So my queen goes to b3, continues protecting the knight on b7, and also threatens the pawn at f7. If I could play a second time in a row, queen goes to f7 check, king goes to h7 or h8, and then queen to g7 mate. But black is going to play now. You are threatening to force eventual checkmate, says the computer, but all black needs to do is to remove knight from f6, because then the queen will cover the square f7. And yes, exactly that's what black is doing. Knight to e4 also attacks my bishop on d2. So my queen cannot go to f7 to check, because then it will be lost. Yes, I'll take it back with my rook, but I lose my rook. I have to worry about my bishop on d2. The bishop, by the way, is also protecting the knight on f4, so I cannot just, for example, win a pawn on a5, because then I lose my knight on f4. The computer doesn't think it's the best, would rather have the knight go to h7. And what does the computer code say? This move protects their pawn, which was vulnerable with insufficient defenders. Let's see how I'm going to respond to this threat. Bishop goes to c1. The computer would prefer if my queen to d3, because yes, I would lose the knight on b7, but I would win the knight on e4. You find safer square for your bishop, that is true, but let's see how safe it's going to be. How safe will my uh, bishop feel on c1? What would happen now if black would take the knight here? I take it with my queen, and then the black queen goes on c5, attacks the knight, the bishop on c1, the rook on f7, and if the bishop is lost, it comes with a check. So my advantage is 4.7. The computer thinks I'm winning, but let's see what's going to happen. Computer would rather have the knight go to c5, because then there would be double attack on the knight and on the queen. And if my knight took the enemy's knight, then the rook would take my queen. Computer says it's inaccuracy. Computer, if I could rather have the knight go to, yes, exactly, to c5, as we said. They've made a mistake, says the computer, and their knight is now lost. They missed a chance to tactically win a knight. Still, if they wanted, they would reduce the advantage from material advantage from +5 to +2, but I would still be ahead. But now my advantage is 6.5. And what do I do? The threat is the same, as you see, that my knight on b7 is pinned. It's attacked twice by the knight on d6 and the rook on b8. And if my knight leaves, then, for example, if it takes the knight on d5 or anywhere else, then I lose my queen on b3. But computer doesn't like it. And you're going to see what is the difference between the knight going on d6 versus c5. I'm going not to take the knight on d6. I really thought about it for some time because I see that all the variations are on my side. Look what's happening. I got the knight and my queen on b3 is lost, but then I'm going to win their queen on f5. If they save their queen, I win the rook on b8. So black has a lot of choices, but each of them is very bad. Let's see how black is going to react. They save the queen by winning the bishop on d6. But now, move number 29. And just to tell you, from 6.5 advantage, after the pawn took my knight, you see the m9. This means that if I play correctly, in at most 9 moves, I have a checkmate. Will this happen? Because during the game, I had no idea what the computer thought. Queen takes a rook on b8. You capture the free rook. Wonderful. My material advantage becomes +10, as you see here, because I have queen, rook, knight, bishop. Opponent has only queen. And even if I have one less pawn of the opponent, I have 5, my opponent has 6. Still, the overall material advantage is enormous for me. And the computer thinks I have mate in at most 8 moves. The m8 is here. Let's see how this will continue. King goes to h7, the only move. And now rook goes to e8, mate in 7 moves as a computer. And you're going to see now what's happening. If I could play a second move in a row, rook goes to h8 and it's mate because the g6 is covered by the knight. If the queen takes a knight, you avoid the checkmate, but my bishop will take the queen. What else can the queen do? It can also delay by going to c8, but then I win the queen. And the only moves that could perhaps postpone the mate would be the pawn from g7 to go to g6 or g5. So when I check the king, it can escape on g7. But let's see what black is going to do. I have mate in 7 moves at most. I was very optimistic. I didn't know I had mate in 7, but I knew that sooner or later the end would come. Believe it or not, the computer, instead of moving the g pawn to g6 or g5, would rather have the queen take the knight and then it's lost to the bishop. But now, by sending the queen to c2, I have made in just one move, rook going to h8, which, of course, I had seen well in advance. In fact, I had prepared quite some combinations in case the pawn goes to g6 or g5. My rook would go to h8 check, and then the queen would go either f8 or g8, and it would be checkmate in a few moves. But now, that's not necessary. There's immediate checkmate. And in this way, I won the game, got the extra point, and I'm guaranteed to advance to the final round. But let's see the overall review. What did the computer think about the overall game? It thought that I played with accuracy 84.4 versus 70% for deleigne from Hungary. Also that I played as if my rating was 1700, which is a little bit better than my United States Chess Federation rating and my online for the Rapids and the uh, Blitz, but it's much, much better than the 1316 that you see here. This is my daily rating. My opponent played for 1200. This is also a little bit better than the daily rating of 1015 that you see here. And let's see how did you do in the various categories. None of us had a brilliant move. I had one great. Best 10 for me, 5 for the line. Excellent 7 for me, 9 for the line. Good 5 for me, 5 for the line. Book moves 5 for me, 4 for the line. Inaccuracies 3 for the line. Mistakes 2 for me, 1 for the line. Misses 1 for me, 2 for the line, and 1 blunder from the line. And now let's see what is happening in the tournament after this game was concluded. You're going to see, let's see all the groups. Group 1, we're still waiting for hunting achievements, if hunting achievements decide to actually play. You see that hunting achievements has 9 days to make a move. This is vacation time remaining. And you're going to see hunting achievement that last time they logged in was October 20. So for more than a month, hunting achievements has not logged in chess.com. They have 9 days to log in to continue the game. Otherwise, Maxim Govorukha will conclude the first round with 6 points of perfect 6. Group 2, Barak 7 from Israel got the perfect 6, 6 out of 6. And Group 4, my skin from Italy also got 6 out of 6. In Group 3, where I participate, I already have 5 wins in 5 games. This means that I have guaranteed advancing to the next round. If the line can win the remaining game, that the line has the white and I have the black, we tie both and we both advance. If I get at least a draw, I'm the only one advancing. And let's see what happens in the other tournament. In the Underwater Moonlight, the 9 Moons tournament, where I'm not doing so well. As you see, I'm third for the time being, but I have completed all of my games. And all that the others do is reach the 8. And if any of the 6 remaining reaches 8 points, I'm out. And Marco Musso here, of course, has no chance, even if they win all the remaining games. But everybody else, if they win all the remaining games, they will pass me. Let's see what's happening. You're going to see that 497 games have been completed, 151 to go, meaning more than 3/4 have been completed. And if we go group by group, Group 1, a lot to stand chess from Japan is leading 13.5. Group 2, Spider 99 from Egypt is leading with 11 points. Group 3, Vien Carvanans from United States leads with 11 points. While Maxim Govorukha has a perfect 9, meaning Maxim Govorukha has won all the 9 games that have been completed. Group 4, Iraq Lion from Iraq, a perfect 10 is leading with 10 out of 10. Group 5, Chinan Fu from Greenland leads with 13 points. Group C, Mathis B, 6, Mathis B 2008 from France leads with 14.5. It is guaranteed, of course, advancing. From each group, by the way, the top 3 advance. Group 7, General F 66 from Uzbekistan leads with 14.5. Also almost certainly has advanced. Group 8, my group, Khaled Katab from Egypt leads with 8.5. Google Sheep, original from the European Union, is second with 8 points. I'm third with 7.5. And although the top 3 advance, since I have completed all of my games, if any of the remaining 6 players passes me, gets the 8 points, or has 7.5 with a better tiebreaker, I'm out. And Group 9, Steam Rocket from Australia leads with 9 points. This concludes the coverage of the games that I played with the line from Hungary that guaranteed my advancing to the final round. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to the subscribers, to the viewers, to the likes, and to the people that have left some nice comments. I'm Harry Lasaniziris, This is Greco Chess. We'll continue with my games at the recent Chessanity tournament. For the time being, goodbye.